from my hand and I won't get back up. We gotta stop the hate, we gotta stop the hate and spread the love. One mic, one voice. You can change the world, it's your choice. One mic, one voice. You can change the world, it's your choice. One mic, one voice. You can change the world, it's your choice. One mic, one voice. You can change the world, it's your choice.
We can make a difference if we try. We can be the change that's in our lives. All we gotta do is work together. We gotta raise our children better. We gotta stop the hate, and spread the love.
One mic, one voice. You can change the world, it's your choice. One mic, one voice. You can change the world, it's your choice. One mic, one voice. You can change the world, it's your choice. One mic, one voice. You can change the world, it's your choice. Your choice. One mic, one voice. You can change the world, it's your choice. One mic, one voice. You can change the world, it's your choice. One mic, one voice. You can change the world, it's your choice. One mic, one voice.
Welcome to the One Mic, One Voice show, building the collective conscience, the show that is created to give space where your voice, ideas, and informed opinions can be heard, appreciated, and debated. And I am Michael Eric Owens. Beautiful day outside, Oklahoma. Finally got a break from the rain and the severe weather to come to you on this Sunday. Yes, Sunday. In the midst of the COVID-19, in the midst of Groundhog Day, where every day seems to be the same. And I want to talk today. It's been quite troubling to me to see what is happening, particularly in our country. And I know we see signs of this around the world. Shout out to all of our listeners on the continent of Africa, throughout Europe, locally in the United States. We appreciate you giving of your valuable time. Hopefully today will be encouraging in some ways, but also very thought-provoking in others. And so today, this podcast is titled America, an Undisciplined Society. Now, before we get started, I want to issue a caveat because oftentimes when I'm critical of the country of my origin, I get messages from folks that they don't take that favorably. But let me just highlight, I spent 13 years in the United States Navy serving this country, sacrificing my time and my effort to make sure that the citizens of this great nation could continue living their normal lives. And so I think being a veteran student of, I would say, of sacrifice for this country, I have the right to speak my mind as it pertains to the leadership, as it pertains to the citizenry, and how we interact with one another. America, an undisciplined society. America is said to be a society that values freedom. Huh. We hear that all over. Even when immigrants come here, they come here for a better life. They come here because they've heard the narrative that America is the land of the free. And if you are a student of American history, you know that statement does not come without some sort of controversy, whether it is for the Africans that came here, for the native peoples who were invaded, or for the Latin American people that have tried to come here, or for the people in Mexico who were pushed out of their land. It is debatable whether or not that narrative is true, but we're going to examine that today. It's known as a country where the rights of the individual are respected and cherished. I think Amon Aubrey, if he was around today, or Michael Brown, or Trayvon Martin, and others um, would say something different. Even my dear friend Sierra would have something different to say about that. The Declaration of Independence states it in this way: we hold these truths to be self evident that all men, and at this time they were not considering women or black man or Latino man or native man, they said, but all really white men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, these impossible to take away rights, these rights that cannot be given up, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We all learn this in grammar school or grade school or elementary school is what they call it nowadays. We learn that these rights, that among these, the first one, life, life, life is listed as the first one, that we all have a right to life, the protection of life, the dignity of life. And that is at the heart of this podcast because, as I mentioned, we are in the midst of a plague that has infested the entire world. And all of us have ran for shelter. Well, let me back that statement up. The majority of us who are rational, that are in their right mind, that understand the seriousness of our present situation, have ran for cover. There is a responsibility that comes along with this idea of freedom, this idea of valuing freedom. There is a responsibility. That responsibility is to each other. It's not just to the self. You see, we are an undisciplined society because we are a selfish society where the individual looks in the mirror and says, it's all about me. It's all about what I want to do. It's all about how I want to live. And some of that we're guilty of because we have instilled such a individualistic viewpoint in our capitalistic system. It is you that must set goals. It is you that must achieve them. It is you, right, that must be competitive and win at all costs. It is you. So that individualistic viewpoint that we instill in young kids when they grow up and they get out into the world and they begin to compete or they begin to go to school and who gets the best grades, who dresses the nice, who has the most likes on social media. It's all individualistic. But there in freedom, there is no individual. Let me repeat that. In freedom, there is no individual. The only way there would be an individual in freedom if you inhabited the planet by yourself. And I think that would be a pretty lonely place to find yourself in. The responsibility is to each other. I cannot pursue the preservation of my life at the cost of yours, or claim liberty by denying you liberty, or reaching for my happiness while I wreak sadness upon your soul. You see, it's not just about the individual, it's about all of us, it's about the collective. Is this the American freedom we seek? That's a very important question. Because one thing about America, when we talk about the flag on 4th of July, or we have all the parades and New Year's, we do all the fireworks on both of those days. Are we celebrating individually? I mean, is the 4th of July? Well, number one, I think I'm of the most impression that Black folks have that the 4th of July is not really Liberation Day for us. It is Juneteenth, when the slaves actually found out June 19th that they were free. But anyway, that's a whole nother, I think, did a podcast on that. Who's Liberation Day? But are these celebrations for the individual, or are they for all of us? Do not they signify that we share in this experience, this concept of freedom, this concept that we all have access to protection from the law? We all have access, protection of the law, by the law. We all have access to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Isn't that what the celebration is? It's not one person or one race or one gender. Is this the American freedom we seek? Well, folks, we're going to take a break and we're going to come back and we're going to get deeper into this. We're going to look at some numbers because people are not looking at the numbers when it comes to the coronavirus and how that relates to this movement to counteract all the progress that we've made. Folks, hang in there. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Jamie Lindberg, host of Upbeat Urbanism, a podcast where we seek to have an open dialogue about what it takes to create healthy, intentional, sustainable communities, one conversation at a time. Each episode is an interview with a city planner, leader, developer, real estate professional, or community builder. To listen, search for Upbeat Urbanism wherever you find podcasts. Follow us on Twitter at UUrbanism and on Facebook at Upbeat Urbanism. Devote yourself to your community around you and devote yourself to creating something that gives you purpose and meaning. Until then, keep it upbeat.
This is Dr. Laura Gillot, and when I listen to podcasts, I always listen to the One Mic, One Voice show.
All right, welcome back. I should mention that I am on location. I am not in the studio simply because we are practicing social distancing. So, but with technology, we can continue to do these things. So this argument, individual freedom, or the concept of freedom in the midst of a coronavirus. And I'm going to put all this together for you, but stay with me just for a moment here. If we look at the largest three nations in the world, China has 1.4 billion people, India 1.3 billion, the United States 331 million. Now I want to talk about leadership for a moment. If you look at what has transpired here, our country is the third largest in population not in size, but in population, we find here that we have 1.5 confirmed cases. Okay. And we're the third. Now, if you look at where the um, virus started, its origin, China has 78,227 cases, right? They have, let me go back, they have 1.4 billion people. We have 331 million people. So you look at China, you say, well, hold on, Michael. Now, that's a dictatorship. That's this is that. Well, whether you are forced or you volunteer to go into social distancing, we see that it makes a difference. Now let's go to the second largest country, which is India. India, again, I will repeat, has 1.3 billion people. And India has 34,109 cases. In America, we have 1.5 million cases. Now let's go to the death toll. The death toll. I'm going to go to the largest country, which again is China. China has 4,634. 4,634. India death toll is 2,872. The United States, I think we hit, my numbers were from yesterday, so I'm just going to tell you what I got. I don't know what day it was from, but let me just tell you what I got. What I got is 89,498. I think we reached 90,000. I'm not sure yet, but we will reach 90,000. Are those numbers not staggering to you? We're the third largest nation population, and we have the most deaths by far. Well, I don't know what that percentage is. China, 4,634. Okay. This is about not just leadership from the top, but it's also about how we react as a country, how we react when we're told to social distance. Because the argument against that is freedom. But the argument goes even to a more subcategory, not just freedom, but individual freedom. So India, for instance, has extended its lockdown for another 2 weeks as it attempts to curb the spread of the coronavirus. It says here, they issued new guidelines keeping in view the need to open up economic activity. Everybody knows that somehow the economic engine of any nation must run, but at what cost, right? It is the fourth time the federal government in India has extended the world's largest lockdown, covering 1.3 billion people. They've called it Lockdown 4.0. You see, they have, again, numbers don't lie, 2,872 deaths. We have close to 90,000. Now, how many people would still have their loved ones? How many people would not even have to contemplate the pain of not being able to go to a funeral because you lost your loved one? How many grandmothers daughters, husbands, sisters, brothers, aunties, uncles would still be here if this administration and state government had a truly locked this place down. Well, you might say to me, well, Michael, hold up for a minute. America. No. America has 331 million people. China has 1.4 billion. India, 1.3 billion. The people that lost their lives did not have to lose their lives. They didn't. That's a fact. But because of this notion of freedom, my right, how can you infringe upon my right, has caused countless deaths. I would say that the blood on the hands of many are spread across our country. Countries with the most death toll were the slowest to lock down. United States, United Kingdom, Italy, Spain, France. Well, the Western world, you can make your own sort of, come to your own conclusion with that. But we have in this country this rising protest. Do these people not know how deadly this is? I mean, are their heads buried in the sand? Do they lack empathy? Because there's protests. Protests has broken out in New York, in California, in Michigan, in many other states. Just today, an article came up just a few days after my state, the place of my birth. Supreme Court overruled the governor, and now Wisconsin has the highest infection rate that they've had in a few days that ruling has come down. That people use, I don't know about you, but I saw the pictures, people flocking to the taverns. We call them taverns, y'all call them bars. Have flocked to those places, and guess what? The scientists are correct. The doctors are correct. Folks, when do we not listen to the experts? If you come to me and you say, well, Michael, I'm having a little trouble breathing, and I don't know, maybe I need heart surgery. What's your opinion? You don't want my opinion. I'm not an expert. I'm not a cardiologist. I don't know what to tell you. I tell you to go see the expert. So the experts have been speaking to us for months. They warned us that this would happen. And what did we do? We did virtually nothing. And now that we're in the midst of this, we're saying, because you want to protect life. Wasn't that the first right? Wasn't that the first declaration? Life. But some of us think that our lives are more important than others. I want to take a listen to this video. I'm hoping you're looking on YouTube because you can watch the video. It's from the Guardian News. It's about the armed protesters demand an end to Michigan coronavirus lockdown. Let's take a listen.
Unethical, disgusting. You're a virus. We're trying to do the right.
Brother?
work, you don't get to work. Freedom is essential.
Our community is struggling. My husband is on unemployment for the first time in our life. And it's unwillingly that we're taking unemployment. We want to go back to work.
Time for our state to be opened up. We're tired of not being able to buy the things that we need, go to the hairdressers, get our hair done. It's time to open up.
Who's ready to stand defiant against this governor and open up business tomorrow? Lock her up! 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 Lock her up!
I know that people are angry, and that's okay. And if you want to take it out and send it my way, if it makes you feel better, that's fine. We know that this rally endangered people. When people gather that way without masks, they were in close proximity, they were touching one another, that's how COVID-19 spreads. And so the sad irony here is that the protest was that they don't like being in this stay-home order, and they may have just created a need to lengthen it, which is something that we're trying to avoid at all costs.
All right. I guess we're done with the video. I'm remote, remember? Let me say this. We have Lock Her Up, which we know that refers to the chant at Trump rallies regarding Hillary Clinton for Governor Whitmer. And we have Trump posters. Comment from Eliza says this: do you think people's fear of the virus has increased racism and hate in those who are weak-minded? It's a good question, because you'll find out as we go deeper into this situation that, yes, there's freedom in this country from the beginning has only been for white males. It's the truth. They didn't say men and women. They didn't say black males, because if you can recall, blacks were not even considered to be human. They were 3/5 of a person. So there was no need to put that in the document, because they were referring to themselves. So racism is at the heart of this. When you look at who has been affected most, it's black and brown people. That's because of a history of racism in the health field. Lack of access to health care and food deserts throughout the United States and minority communities, so they can't eat healthy. Arthur responds, says, I think it has in some cases, but it's definitely given people an excuse to act negatively in a variety of ways. Arthur goes on. This reminds me of one time of my part-time employment was all up in arms and upset about Obamacare. And I asked him point blank, wouldn't you like to have insurance? And he said, well, yeah, but I'll be damned if the government tells me or makes me have insurance. Some people just wake up with their fists balled up, as Arthur saying, looking for a fight no matter what the topic. Eliza says people's stupidity is going to keep the virus around for a long time. And you know what's so funny is this guy probably has car insurance, right? I mean, he doesn't have a choice on whether or not he has car insurance or not. These people are protesting because they feel that this lockdown, this strategy to save life, it's not to control, it's not to wreak economic havoc on anyone, it's to preserve life. Remember now, 331 million people, 90,000 deaths compared to 1.4 million, 4,000 some deaths. Social distancing works, and the government has a right to protect life. Now, the government is there to protect its citizens. When you have a problem, where do you go to get recourse? When you've been done, something's been done to you egregiously, you seek an attorney. An attorney will seek the local, state, or federal government. The government is there to protect, number one, to protect its citizen. For the Trump administration to ignore and take a vacation in February, when all of the experts were saying this is serious, this thing could kill hundreds of thousands of people, we need to act now. This guy was saying it's going to go away magically. One day it won't be here. 90,000 deaths in rising later. He was negligent on his number one duty, was to protect American citizens. His administration was negligent. There is no reason we should have more deaths than the country where the virus started. We have the best technology. We have the best healthcare system. We have all resources that we need. But yet, 90,000 versus 4,000, 1.4 billion versus 331 million. If you can't see a problem in those numbers, then you're blind. You're completely blind. The government protects its citizens. That's why we have crime laws. That's why we have to wear a seatbelt. That's why we have to stop at a red light. That's why we have car insurance. That's why we're required to wear clothing. Yes. Kids are required to go to school or be homeschooled. You can't get around it. The list goes on and on where the government says we're going to make these laws because it protects you. It educates you. Because we're concerned about the civil society. And in the Declaration, even though these men had no idea the depths of the concept of that Declaration, it still speaks volumes today. How is the attempt to prevent you and I from contracting COVID-19 an infringement on our freedoms? The answer is, it's not. It's not. It's not. I ask you that question, my listeners. How is it an infringement on freedom? You tell me. I don't think it is. America, again, is an undisciplined and selfish society. Undisciplined and selfish society. The truth is, when we think of freedom, we think of ourselves. We don't think of the freedom of others. See, freedom in America means individual freedom. I have a right to bear arms. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter whether or not that scares you. Doesn't matter whether I put you in fear. I walk around, not me personally, but the idea is a person can walk around and you're in a store and you see that a person has a gun. And you go like, what? What is? But see, the person will say, I have a right. See, that is not projected upon you. That freedom is, you're not in that equation in the psyche of a lot of Americans. This is the reason why so many have a problem with immigration. I have the right to be here. You don't. I have the right to this narrative of America valuing freedom. You don't. You were not born here, so you don't have this right. But the person's a human being. Let's examine birthright. So, well, aren't you born into the human race? Aren't you born from a woman? Doesn't that give you the right to have access to freedom simply because you were born? I tend to think it does. But there are people that will say, no, you have no right to these quote unquote freedoms. If a group of black guys marched on a Capitol with AR-15s, how would you think the reaction would be? You know what the reaction would be, because they don't have the right. See, when these people, when they talk about freedom, they're talking about it for themselves, not for you and I. That's why they have so many problems with minorities, with women, with LGBTQ plus community, and with minority groups. You don't. If you are Muslim, if you're Jewish, if you're Sikh, you don't have the religious freedom as Christians, because Christians will say this is a Christian nation. Although our founding documents say there should be no established religion, right? Freedom of religion. There's no hierarchy, but yet that freedom for religion is based upon the narrative that is for me, not for you, because you are different. Now we get to it. Now we zero in on it, right? Because the notion that white men built this country is their country. And anything outside of that is different. Therefore, it's deficient. Therefore, you're not afforded what belongs to me. That's the problem. See? Government is fine as long as government does what I want it to do for me. But if government tries to act on behalf of anyone else, I got a serious problem with that, right? You see, these people don't care about anybody's life other than their own. Their own. Let's look at this video. We're not going to be much longer. America, an undisciplined and selfish society. This video from Now This News is about the anti-lockdown protesters, about when they harassed the COVID-19, get this, nurses. They harass nurses. Let's take a listen.
Unethical. Disgusting. You're a virus.
We're trying to do the right thing and we don't need to get attacked. It's not fair to get attacked.
and a handful of nurses wearing masks, refusing to move.
Pictures of nurses and physicians with bruises on their faces and crying because they can't take another day of losing patients. It's just incredible that that doesn't seem to affect people.
And you say I don't have the right to stand here and debate? Listen, honey, we can have a decent conversation. You can't without fighting. Stupid. Let's go. No, can't fix stupid. I'm not sure your position.
Traitor! Why do those people spreading disinformation? No shame. No shame.
It really feels like a slap in the face to medical workers. I get it. I don't want to be stuck in my house either. I don't think many people at all are enjoying this. That's not the point.
People die from all kinds of things every day. That's just the way of life. The people that are getting sick are the people that are already compromised in the first place. They're usually older, they're unhealthy. I'm sorry for them.
Unless we get the virus under control, the real recovery economically is not going to happen. So what you do if you jump the gun and go into a situation where you have a big spike, you're going to set yourself back. So as painful as it is to go by the careful guidelines of gradually phasing into a reopening, it's going to backfire. That's the problem.
All you're going to do is start trouble, and everybody's going to end up going to jail. They won't just take you to jail and her to jail. They'll take everybody to jail, and it'll be on your record for the rest of your life. Is it worth it?
We have a right to be here, too.
And they're saying reopen PA with no testing. It's like they don't care about life. They don't care about the people around them, the people they love. I care about the people.
The president's policy says you can't start to reopen under his plan until you have declining numbers for 14 days, which those states and my state do not have. So then to encourage people to go protest the plan that you just made recommendations on Thursday, it just doesn't make any sense.
Much of this feels like a Donald Trump re-election rally at the same time. Many people coming out to support the president, many not wearing masks. Some are, but a lot of the people in this crowd right now are not wearing masks and don't have a particular concern about the coronavirus.
We're here exercising our God-given American rights, our Second Amendment. And we're here in support of firing DeWan, getting rid of him. He hasn't done anything for this state other than cause economic grief.
Is sacrificing, really taking on a lot of hardship to be able to flatten this curve and to reduce and this slow spread. And it's kind of like deciding after you jump out of an airplane and you've pulled your parachute, if now that you've started to slow down, that you say, hey, I don't need this parachute anymore, and just cut the cord.
We are essential. We are essential.
Wow, that's a lot to unpack. I think one of the most grotesque statements that a person can make when it comes to gun rights is that I'm exercising my God-given right. God-given right. Think about that for a moment. God has given me the right to carry a gun. Now, even if you're not a religious person, I'm sure you've heard things about Jesus. Jesus was very passive. I mean, he was not when it comes to violence, he was a pacifist. He was not one to encourage violence or war, even when the woman was caught in adultery. And Jesus says, he without sin cast the first stone. He was not one to advocate hurting anyone. Matter of fact, he spoke the opposite. He said, if you pray for your enemies, if you slap, turn, give the other cheek. He was not a violent person. And to say that this nonviolent person, this pacifist, this one who Dr. King based his nonviolent movement pace upon, has given you the right to carry a gun? That's beyond foolishness. It's beyond stupidity. But you will hear people say that, my God-given right. You hear the woman in her plea, the black woman in PA in her plea. You could hear her anguish, her tears, her concern, her fear. And then she says this powerful statement. Don't they care about life? This poetic question. Don't they care about life? You see, when we talk about freedom in America, and we're talking about as it relates to the COVID-19, but let's broaden that for a second here. As it relates to our society as a whole, no, I will answer her question. They don't care about life. They care more about themselves, what they can do, what affects them, than they do about you or I. We have an undisciplined and selfish president. Throughout this country, we have undisciplined and selfish lawmakers, governors, mayors, state reps. Undisciplined and selfish. They simply don't care, because when you think about America, and if you're going to be honest with yourself, I mean, let's try to be for a moment here. America is a society that has, since the outset, pretended to value freedom for all. Most Americans can't define freedom, and if they did find it, the definition would be singular. America has never lived up to this idea of the Declaration of Independence, and I'm afraid it never will. What we are witnessing today, in the face of 90 people losing their lives, are people saying they had problems anyway. Dying is just part of life. If you've ever lost a loved one, I've lost 3 relatives by COVID-19. Just heard about one this morning. I lost one last Sunday. If you have ever lost anyone close to you that you love, you wouldn't wish that on anyone. That sadness, that grief, that loss that stays with you. You can't shake it. Christmas comes along. All the holidays, birthdays, Mother's Day, Father's Day, they come along and you experience that grief and that pain and that loss. How dare someone say to us, that's just part of life. You know how someone can say that? They don't care about your life. They only care about themselves. You see, America, we are too undisciplined and selfish. Maybe there's a new generation that will emerge in the distant future and truly embrace and understand the responsibility of true freedom, that my freedom coexists with yours, and my freedom cannot infringe upon yours because it ceased to be freedom. It ceased to be. And clearly, the only way that we can make it through COVID-19 without doubling the amount of death is we have to understand that concept. I wear a mask not just for myself, but for you. I want to protect you. The mask is a symbol that I care about you. When I see a person that's not wearing a mask, it sends the message to me that you don't care about me. Yeah, that's your right. But that's not freedom. Abraham Lincoln said, America will never be destroyed from the outside. If we falter and lose our freedoms, it will be because we destroyed ourselves. Because history will speak of us. Somewhere in the distant future, a scribe will reach down deep into the archives of our time, and what will she find? Will she discover that we overcame our differences? Will she find that out of many, we became one? Or will she find that we solved nothing and remain a divided peoples? Yes, history will speak of us.
We can make a difference if we try. We can be the change that's in our lives. All we gotta do is work together. We gotta raise our children better. We gotta stop the hate, and spread the love.
One mic, one voice. You can change the world, it's your choice. One mic, one voice. You can change the world, it's your choice. One mic, one voice. You can change the world, it's your choice. One mic, one voice. You can change the world, it's your choice. Your choice.
Thank you for downloading the One Mic, One Voice show. This episode is brought to you by Blackened Studios. To learn more about Blackened Studios, go to blackenedstudios.com or visit their Facebook page. The views and opinions of the One Mic, One Voice podcast show do not reflect the views of Blackened Studios or our other sponsors.